Did you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Conversations That Make a Difference. I'm Teresa Velardi, your host, and we are happy to tell you that Conversations That Make a Difference is on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can listen to syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network online, mobile, in your cars, and YouTube, and by asking Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Go to dreamvision7radio.com to learn more and for a full schedule. And I'm happy to have you with me today. We always start with a prayer, so let's do that before I introduce my guest. And we'll say the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it is also by God's grace that we are fabulous, blessed, and highly favored, living in our greatness, using our gifts and talents, making a difference in the lives of others with passion and purpose, and all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. We gratefully say, amen. So today my guest is Linette Rainville, and she is the founder of Daughters United. She's a United States Navy veteran and movement leader. She's on a quest to raise up the next generation of Esthers. And for those of you who don't know Esther, Linette's going to share with you who Esther is. As a mission builder, mentor, and founder of Daughters United, a global equipping ministry, she empowers women to build projects and start ministries from the ground up. With 25 years of hands-on poverty outreach experience, Linette has coached thousands of kingdom women, guiding them to pursue their callings, lead movements, and build missions. Her greatest passion is to equip her sisters with tools and encouragement to confidently walk in their God-given callings and assignments for such a time as this. Daughters United's mission is to meet, mentor, and mobilize around the world so that we can equip others to gather, go, and grow together. So welcome, Linette. It's so good to have you here today.
Hey, Teresa, so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be on your platform and, just encourage women.
And I know that what you are doing is absolutely making a difference in the world. So explain to everyone who Esther is and why we are saying as Esther for such a time as this.
So as you may or may not know, Esther is a real woman who lived in Old Testament Bible times. And she grew up as a Jewish girl who was actually orphaned, and her uncle Mordecai actually raised her. So at this time, there was King Xerxes, and there's another pronunciation depending on what version you're reading, but it's the same king. He had this queen, Vashti, and she made him upset. And he said, nope, you're out. This is not happening. So his advisor said, you need a new woman. So this is very much the paraphrase version, you guys. Okay. So they went out into all the land and they picked the most beautiful women. Now, this was a different, this was a Jewish girl, and this was like Babylon, or I think it was a different culture, right? And so it was very different, and they had no say-so. They were citizens of this government. So when they gathered up these women, like in a harem, Esther was one of those women. So it was a Okay, we look at the term sex trafficked, right? This is someone taken against their will, coming into a situation and never being able to leave. This is what happened to these women. So what they did is they, every girl had a year of preparation before she would go and meet the king, and then the king decided which one would be the new queen. So Esther was the one that was chosen. So, but there's so much more to the story. So I highly encourage you, go get a Bible, look for the book of Esther and read it. It's fantastic. It's riveting. It's full. I mean, there's been movies made of it. There needs to be more. Yes. So, but basically what happened in this whole, God had positioned her in this role for such a time as this, because there was a lot of cloak and dagger stuff going on in that kingdom at the time. Her uncle Mordecai actually prevented an act against the king, so that he would have been dethroned or he would have been murdered. And also that there was an uprising, the same kind of politics wanted the Jewish people to be, removed. So in that, there was an edict that all the Jews were going to be killed on a certain day. And the uncle went to Esther, who was now queen, and said, if you don't rise for such a time as this, your people will perish and you will perish. Will you come up to the call? Because there was a lot, again, there's a lot of evil, deception, a lot of things. And hey, hello, does this sound, familiar to what's going on in the world today? She took a stand, and for 3 days, and she was very wise. And this is the part that I'm about. She had strategy. She had wisdom. She prayed for wisdom. She had a plan, and she worked out her plan. So basically, she called a fast for 3 days. And that is what is happening all around the world right now. And you're going to hear more about October 12th and what that's about. But to really pray for the goodness of God to invade our space, right? For the goodness of God, for the will of God, because he does not like his children being hurt, injured, abused, whatever. And so basically she did that, and the tide was turned. And actually the gallows that this evil Haman set up for Mordecai, he actually is the one that got hung on there. So it's almost like you give your enemy enough rope and they'll hang themselves, kind of. I think that's where that came from.
Great analogy. Yes.
Anyway, so I can go on, but stop me, Teresa, because it's and so this is, well, to really put the pieces together for Esther. I have a platform also called Esther Calling. That's kind of like my heart teachings. And it's really that the whole emphasis of that is that God has placed you. He has positioned you. He has equipped you for such a time as this, that you were not an accident. You were not placed on this earth just to breathe air and take up space, that you have intentional makings, workmanship in your body, in your life, to make a difference for others. So that is really what I focus on. And I know I've coached thousands of women now, and the biggest thing the question they have is, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
Why am I here? And so that's the Esther connection.
That's awesome. And one of the things that I want to talk about, you ended that perfectly, because as you say, a lot of women don't know their purpose, don't know why they are here. But when the time comes that you need to know your purpose, just like Esther did, you will know. It will come to you. You will be able to rise above whatever the noise is, whatever the situation is, the circumstances, and step into the role that you were created for. I truly believe that with all my heart. Recently, a friend of mine went through a very tragic experience, and it was through that tragic experience that she came to know her purpose, and is now helping other people who have experienced similar things to be able to heal and to rise above the the sadness and the grief in order to be able to help one another. And there are so many hands, so many people joining together. And that's one of the things we're talking about today, right? Joining together in order to be able to make a difference. And, you know, somewhere in the Bible, it says that women will be the ones that are going to make the difference in the world at this time when there is so much uncertainty. Can you speak a little bit into that and some of the things that are going to be happening soon around
Yeah.
us?
Well, when different people all over the world are hearing the same message. Now, I heard the similar message in dreams and visions way back in 2018, 2019, before the pandemic. And now I'm just learning of some of the movement makers that are alongside of this whole thing. They also had dreams and visions and, you know, got the downloads. Some things happened in their lives that are like, oh my goodness, like the light bulbs were going on. I think God really enlightened people at that time to prepare. That's what he told me. It was a time of preparation. And thank God we heeded that call and just the things and writing down. It's so important that you write down what God is telling you. And so at that time, you know, I just saw the writing on the wall. I mean, these political things that happen in the world, they kind of prompt, okay, so it's like, are we better off now than we were 4 years ago or 8 years ago? Or, you know, even in culture, you know, oh my goodness, it's changed so much. And then you look to the future. That's my heart. I have 2 grandchildren, and I look at my granddaughter who's going to be 10, and I'm just like, what is she going to be facing in 10 years or 20 years when she's raising her family? So that's a big like heartbeat of this, is to really prepare women for their calling and to walk that's in this movement is saying, especially, okay, now I'm just going to say this. The feminist movement has really, it actually started as a righteous root. You can hear all about that. I have a free gift for you to learn about that. But these kind of different voices kind of wrapped around that whole feminist root, the good root, and choked out. I mean, now we're like so far beyond that. And women moving into almost anything that men can do, right? But now we have it all and we're like tired, we're exhausted, we're like, oh my goodness. But the one place that women are not like even keel is in ministry arenas. And I really feel this call, the Esther movement, where the permission has been given for women to arise, to gather, to shine in their calling, in their spaces and places. And that it's not about denominations. It's not about, you know, whatever color you wear on the tribe, right? It's really about, you know, we all have something of value to give, especially when it's something for the good of our children. And our whole camp is around the fabric of the family, that we are guarding this with our whole beings. Because you talk about, you know, life issues, and I'm just not talking about abortion. I'm talking about addiction, abuse, suicides. You know, there's so much more in that life pillar. Marriages, relationships, motherhood, family, kids, identity, our purpose. So this is everything that we camp around.
Right. So let's go there for a minute. You said that there are 5 pillars in the fabric of the family. So let's share what they are, if you will, for a moment.
Yeah. So life. You don't have the ability to conceive the beauty, the gift of that. I know people who are been heartbroken because they don't have that. Just celebrating that fact alone. And even dignity at end of life. Last year, I walked my mother through end of life, long cancer journey. And, you know, it's tough, but man, even to the last week, there was purpose in her days. It was amazing to see, and everything in between. So life, marriage, and relationships, if it's relationships, right? Whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, married, parental, girlfriends, friends, these relationships, you see that I was there's a saying like, yeah, life would be perfect if people weren't in my life. Where I could just like,
And there are times when that's true, but for
yeah,
the most part, building relationships, we're not meant to be doing
no,
everything by ourselves, and we are meant to join with others
yeah,
and gather together to have conversations, to make plans, to do all the things that we do in relationships. So yeah, that's really important. That's
this
really
thing,
important.
this device that we hold in our hand that is everywhere we go, it says it's social. It is antisocial. It's very isolating. Okay, so battling that. And in fact, a stance we say is we like to celebrate these pillars instead of say we're battling, you know. So we're celebrating, how do we make these relationships better? How do we be more intentional? So then we move on to motherhood, fatherhood, family, children. And this is where I'm kind of at odds with the feminist movement for this pillar alone, kind of degrading motherhood, degrading that, like, oh, well, you're not a professional, you haven't done this or that. It's like, listen, you guys, the role of mothers and fathers, they're the most important jobs on the planet.
Exactly.
If we're going to rise up productive, beautiful, caring children who are going to replicate and do good in the world, right? It's like we need that. They need us to be present in their lives. So then the big there's a huge need in this pillar is identity. Identity, I mean, you have sexual trauma, you have identity image, you have all the stuff that's going on with the advertising industry, social media. Let's filter our life, let's filter, because the real beauty, what is real beauty anyways? We were just talking about wisdom. Wisdom is beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we have, you need identity. You need to know who you are before you can move on to doing the thing that you've been made to do, and that's equipping. And sometimes people have this calling and they know what they want to do or what they're called to do, but it's like, I need some help. I need a mentor. Hey, you've been down that road. Can you give me like the cheat sheet? Can you give me like some pointers? And I know I didn't have, when I was building an outreach ministry, I didn't have that. I had to I was like going through the jungle with my machete, making a path. And it's like, I don't want others to do that. They don't have time to do that.
Right.
Come alongside me. I will give you all of the things. I will give you the blueprint. And that's really where my heart is. That's the pillars.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And the identity and the big question, who am I? How many of us, I'm raising my hand, both hands, how many of us who had the conversation in the mirror? Who am I and why am I here? I think every person in one way or another has had that conversation. And I can tell you when you get real with the answer to that question and what needs to change in order for you to be able to find that out, lots of things happen. Lots of really good things happen. Challenging things happen too. But, as long as we stay true to who we are, we get through them. Years ago when I was married to my ex-husband and I had given up everything, every part of myself that was a blessing to me, just because he didn't like it that way. I came to that minute where I was looking in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. Who are you and why are you here was a question that I asked. And I didn't know for sure, but I knew that in that moment, this marriage was not it. The marriage was not it. And that I had to move past that in order to be able to allow myself to become that person who I was created to be. And I actually wrote a journal about it. Become who you were created to be. And so, I took back myself by leaving something that I thought would last forever, but was told I shouldn't do in the first place. And now I had to deal with it, so I think everyone has gone through a moment like that, regardless of where it comes from, and knowing who we are And our identity is the most important thing we, especially as women, can do, because that's what we pass along to our daughters, right?
Right.
And our children. So,
Mm.
yeah, so pay attention to who you are. Give yourself space to grow into who you are. Did I think years ago that I would be hosting a podcast, that I would be running a publishing company? No, they were nowhere on my radar, but God. And that's what I'm going to say. But God had a plan. And once I made the decision to allow him to run my life, then all the noise around me, everything changed. Would you say that's true for yourself, Linette?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Same thing. Yeah. You know, there's just comes a time where you're like doing all these things and you're like, but why am I doing them all? And what's really speaking to me? How can I embrace? I said, embrace the true you. Like, what is the true you? And you can feel like you're in your true self. Like, I guess, like for us, like same thing with this whole like online social media and what we're doing with the broadcasting and everything. I saw, and there were elements of this little breadcrumb trails along my life. I started as a photography editor in my yearbook staff in high school. So I was always involved with photography, pictures, you know, and media. I always was like the one for justice. I had to stand up and I always wanted to promote good news. And I'm like, who would have thought that this is like your gift makes room for you, but you also need to be working at it. Like you can't just have those. There's a story in the Bible about the talents. You know, there was a manager or an owner who gave the managers, you know, 1 and 2 and 5 talents, and the one who had the 1 buried his talent because he was afraid, and the other 2 invested and multiplied the talents. And it's just like they were working on it. They were working at, you know, what they were given. And this is really important in what we're called to do. And when you have a gift, if you don't steward it, if you don't use it, you can like lose it. Now you can get it back, but as the older we get, it's, you know, that we're talking about.
Exactly.
It's harder to bounce back, but
it is. And on that note, we have to go to a break, but we're going to come back and continue this conversation with Linette Rainville. And we're going to talk a lot more about what's happening coming up in the next month or two and what Daughters United is all about. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you one of the many people who said, someday I'll write a book, but don't know how to get started? Many wannabe authors have begun with the same question and are now published by Authentic Endeavors Publishing, a multi-imprint hybrid publishing company. Whether you're writing an autobiography, a memoir, a kingdom book, a children's book, a business book, or an anthology, we have a place for you. Visit www.AuthenticEndeavorsPublishing.com for more information or to set up a 20-minute consultation. Your title of published author is within reach.
Born Able exists to highlight and normalize the humanity, worth, and abilities of infants and children born with complex medical conditions. We write, illustrate, and publish books for these children and have featured over 1,000 children throughout the world. Our videos and posts have been viewed over 100 million times on social media as we strive to showcase these amazingly abled kids and fight relentlessly for equal medical care, regardless of diagnosis. All proceeds from Born Able books go directly to the Born Able Foundation. To nominate a special kid to be featured in a Born Able book, go to www.bornable.org to learn more.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Okay, we're back with Linette Rainville. Thanks for coming back. Linette, the other day I was watching an interview with you and you were talking with a gentleman. You'll remind me his name because I don't have it at the tip of my tongue right now. But the two of you were talking about, and you alluded to this earlier in our conversation, about the dreams. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you were discussing and how it is so relevant for today's environment?
Yeah, we're seeing, change happen at rapid fire. And, the whole pandemic was just, the beginning of it. But before the pandemic, I had been getting, and I knew if any of you kind of are in history buffs, 2020 was supposed to be the 100th year celebration for suffrage, and where women got the vote. And so in 2018, 2019, I was doing a lot of trainings on vision and mission, and I was studying women like Joan of Arc and Harriet Tubman and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and just all of these leaders of their era, right?
Mhm.
And what they were doing. And so maybe it was part of that, but it's also a timely dream. So one night I had this dream. It was very vivid, and I don't have these all the time, but it was literally, I can recall it like it's real. Like I was really there, really in it. So it's called the war dream. It's the new war dream. Actually, there were two armies of women, and we were on a battlefield, and we were standing on two hills. There was the other army, and then there was the army of God, right? Daughters of God, who were armed. We were armed with, very simply, with bows and arrows and quivers that were strapped, on our backs. And we had shields in one hand and swords in the other hand. And we were made up of different tribes. We had different colors, but we were banding together shoulder to shoulder. And this is what I really remember, that it was like forming a line of defense. And I felt like we were the only ones like on the front line. Mm-hmm. So there was a very strong kind of like presence of God and the Holy Spirit hovering over us and kind of drawing us together, binding us as one unit, and actually, becoming brave, standing there. We were just standing, watching the other armies kind of like do their thing. And what their thing was, the opposing army was more like Battlestar Galactica, or Star Wars or something. They had, they were yelling and chanting. They had machine guns and kind of like that thick armor, and they had paint on their faces, and heavy, like a sash of artillery across their chests, and they were very intimidating, much like the story of David and Goliath. That's just what I remember. And they had snares and mocking and taunting and hatred for us. And I was just like, Lord, what is this? And then we're standing in that line, and the leader starts coming up. She walked up to me, like this close to me, and just snarling, and just the penetrating eyes. And it really did. It shook me for a minute. And then I heard the Lord say to me, look behind you. Look, there's so many more of you than there are of them. And then the Holy Spirit illuminated. It was like this light cloud that came, and I could see, from as far as I could see, a vast army of women warriors who were with us, that we weren't alone. And then the Lord said this. He says, your weapons to pierce the darkness are more powerful than their weapons of destruction. So do not be afraid to stand and fight, For the Lord your God is sending you, and I will go before you, and I am equipping you for this righteous uprising. Yes. And then it was like, arise, my bride in boots, and go forth. And as you go forth, you will be assembling a mighty army. So this is kind of what's been happening. So taking heed, I woke up from that dream. I literally was shaking. I was like, is this real? Like, there is a real kind of spiritual war going on. We can see it. The lives of our kids are at stake. There's stuff that we wouldn't even thought of even 10 years ago happening. So where's the line? And is there a line, right? Is there a line that we don't cross? And we know that God has a line, and he put it there for our good, not to be, this terrible person. He knows, well, just like our children, we give them parameters. We give them, we don't give a 4-year-old the car keys and say, hey, go have fun, So anyways, that was the dream. And this really was a unction to function in this. And then after that, there was so much more that happened, but the whole, he downloaded our pillars. He downloaded the declaration of virtues and sentiments that we had, that we publicly ratified in Seneca Falls, the same place where the feminist movement started. And we went and we declared it upon Capitol Hill in 2020. So it's, yeah.
Chills. I have chills. One of the things that I just love that, God speaks to us in any way that he can get our attention, whether it's through other people, whether it's through dreams, whether it's just in certain circumstances and situations, that you just know that he's present. And he always says, where 2 or more are gathered, there I am, right? There he is, right? So here we are. And we together are part of a group of women who do a show every other week with Michelle Renee Hammer, who has a show on a different network. But through that's how Linette and I met. And immediately all these women that are part of this, I just knew that we were together for a purpose. And every time we meet, something really powerful comes out of those conversations. So is it because we're so brilliant? I don't think so. I think it's because God uses our gifts and our voices in order to be able to make a difference. And so that I heard you talk about that dream when you were being interviewed, or you were interviewing somebody else. Who's the gentleman that you were recently interviewed it with? That was
Yeah, sorry, forgot to mention. So Lou Engle, he is a mobilizer of prayer movements. He did many youth prayer movements called The Call. And now he's really, I love this. In the story of Esther, there was the uncle called Mordecai, and he really was the guy who said, we have to come up with a plan. And that's really what Lou is doing. He's gathering all the different women's movements, because I don't know, I'm a woman, and I know women, and women kind of have their turf, just like guys do, right? But this movement is so much bigger, and we're all on the same team. This is what I gotta say. Ladies, we are all on the same team. And this is how we're gonna win this war. When I had that shoulder to shoulder, in that dream, that was a very powerful message that we all need. We all need that. So yeah, Lou Engle is spearheading with some other women's movement. We're just one of them, right? There's the Don't Mess with Our Kids movement. There's A Million Women on the Wall. There's the Esther Mantle book that just was released. It's powerful. I highly recommend that. So it will share more and enlighten you on what is really going on, and that women, God made them special. He made them, what I feel, in this next phase of what's going on in the world. There are so many that are broken and hurt and need mothering. They need the nurturing. They need the healing. And that's the attributes specifically that God put into women, right? So that's what I feel that this is. So they've had confirmations, and they said, okay, we're going to pick this date, and we're going to gather in Washington on the mall. And that is October 12th. So they have a vision for 1 million women to gather there on October 12th, starting at like 9 in the morning and going to like 7 p.m. And when I heard about this, I was hearing the rumbles of it. And I said, well, should I be there? And I just kept hearing, Linette, I want you to help encourage women to be part of it, no matter what. No matter if they can go to DC, if they're going to pray by themselves, if they got to work that day, or if they can gather women right there in their living room, in their church, in their region. So that's kind of where my role is, that the Lord has made it very clear to me what I'm to do. So I've written a prayer and fasting guide to help people if they've never prayed or fasted, or want to learn more about it. And, some of this Esther stories in there, a lot of it is in there. Actually, it's called Esther Calling. So that's something that I feel the part is that we need equipping. Don't you agree, Teresa?
I totally agree. Totally agree. And we need to be equipped with learning how to do things the way that they are meant to be done, and avoid all the noise in the background, the judgment and whatever else is happening in the world, and just really, get into a posture where God is leading you, and you're not necessarily having to make decisions on your own, that you are part of a group of women who God has his arms wrapped around and is leading them to wherever it is that he wants everyone to go, so that this world can be a better place and not a confused place. I think there's a lot of confusion in the world right now, and I think this and movements like it are what need to happen in order to be able to have people get out of their own heads and all of it, and release all the noise that goes on, because we can make up stories that will, that sound good, but oh my goodness, there's things that happen within that story that might be devastating to many. When you talked about brave, a lot of people don't know how brave they are.
Yes.
Especially women, they don't know how brave they are. And when you make a move, whether it's out of I moved away from my hometown about 22 years ago. And one of the, excuse me, one of the guys I graduated high school with had a moving company. I didn't know anybody where I moved to. I just knew I had to get out of where I was, that there was too much danger happening to me and my family at the hands of someone that was once my husband, that I had to get out of there. And so he said, "You're the bravest person I know. You are the bravest woman I know." I didn't feel brave. I was like running for my life. I was scared. I was running scared. But the bravery was on the other side of that. So there's I think it's from Winnie the Pooh, of all places, right? And it says, "You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you know." So I think that is so appropriate for this conversation, for women who are listening, who might say, "Oh yeah, but that's not me." Well, guess what? That is you. You just have to believe that you can take one step and things can be different, not just for you, but for you and your family. It can be different in your parenting skills. It can be different in your knowledge of who you are, and you can be equipped to make things happen in this world. So your 5 pillars are all part of what I just said. And on that note, would you believe we have to go to commercial again? So we need to go to break. Our time is going by so quickly. So we will be back in just a moment. Again, I'm talking with Linette Rainville, and we will be back in just a moment to finish our conversation.
Do you have an uplifting personal story to share? The Daily Gift Book series began with a daily gift of gratitude and a daily gift of hope, both available on Amazon. We're looking for people like you to share a story in our continuing series. Kindness, peace, inspiration, and generosity are just a few of the upcoming topics in the Daily Gift Book series. Your stories matter, and they make a difference. Visit www.dailygiftbookseries.com to find out more on how to submit your story for one of the upcoming titles.
With the hustle and bustle of today's world, how often do you practice gratitude? How can you make it a habit? Gratitude is more than putting a smile on your face and being thankful for the roof over your head. It's expanding your perception and finding gratitude for every opportunity and every challenge. Gratitude is a feeling of connection to things higher than yourself, to God, and to others. We focus on light, positivity, and connections. When we join our grateful hearts together, the power of community attracts more people and even more to be grateful for while making a difference. A grateful heart is infectious. Share it. Join our Grateful Hearts community on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/The Grateful Hearts Community and watch your blessings blossom.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Okay, thanks for coming back. We're here with Linette Rainville, and we're going to continue our conversation about Daughters United and the 2025 Boots on the Ground tour. We talked so much about how women are so important at this time in our lives and this time in the world. No matter how old you are, we all have something to contribute, not just to our families, but to one another and to the world at large. So Linette, let's talk a little bit about Daughters United and how it is involved in this 2025 Boots on the Ground. And you have an academy too, right?
Yes, yes. So no matter where you are in the journey, my friend, if maybe you're a pastor and you need to figure out, okay, how do I get more involved in my community and do outreach? Or you're just like, I just have this little dream. I just want to do this. I want to go feed people under bridges. We have a guide. We have help for you. We have an academy for that. If you're already working in, maybe you're a health or a heart set coach and you need a tribe of Christian women, we got that. We have a coaches club. There's all these things within the framework of our network now that God is doing. So, but most of this is available at a touch of a button virtually. And then the Lord was speaking this summer about we need to get active. We need to be mobilized. And I just saw it like, boom, boots on the ground. Boots on the Ground Tour 2025, because that's my background is 25 years, go figure, of that, working behind, the food counters, the clothing swaps, the crisis pregnancy, the, intervention when someone's kind of going off the rails, seeing that in real time in an outreach center, building it from the ground up. So if you have this vision of starting something like that, all that is possible. But this is, I do want to do a nod to this before I forget. Ladies, if you are feeling like, yeah, it sounds good, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm brave enough. You talked about being brave, right, Teresa?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do it for you, think of your children. Think of your grandchildren. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. We need to set them up to succeed in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Okay, so this is what it is. So basically we're going to pick, actually God's going to send us to 25 different cities or towns or villages, communities, and we are going to rally the community together using women and women's ministries. And we're going to ask you to have your group and get 2 other groups at least together. And we're going to use the vehicle of clothing. That's how I started, doing a closet swap event, meeting needs of community. My team is going to pour like so much into the leaders, because we're going to have separate leader time just to pour in leadership things into you. But the outcome of that is you're going to meet people in your community. They're going to come out of the woodwork coming into this event, because everybody needs clothing, right? If they don't need it, they have it to give. Okay, that's what they're like.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me clean out my closet, right? This is America. So, and then the result of that, you're going to gain, there's so many wins. You're going to gain a network of these women working together. You're going to gain relationships in the community, and all the surplus clothing is going to go to the mission of your choice. So it's like win, win, win. And, you know, and that's just one tool. We have a whole treasury of different outreach projects you can pick from, download them and run with them. So that's what we do with our mission builders. But if you, to find all the things, we have it all on that one pretty big network now. So just go to daughtersunited.org and you can find and navigate and, you know, email if you don't ever feel like you're lost, because we're here for you. There's an army of women waiting to help, because that's what our heartbeat. We are mentors at heart.
Yeah, and I think that what you are doing with this is also giving the opportunity to women who don't realize their power, the opportunity to step into it and also be part of caring for and equipping the women of your area, the women of these cities that you will tour to, and whatever you're giving people what they need, you're giving people the choice to become who they were created to be, and to step into whatever it is that belongs to them in terms of ministry, or how they can empower, how they can compassionately move other people into their purpose as well. So I love that this is all that through giving, it's all about giving of your heart, giving of your resources, giving of your time, giving of your mission, your purpose to a larger purpose, so that others can benefit from it. And it's really powerful what you're doing, Linette, really powerful. I'm so glad to know you. I'm so glad to be, to be now tickled to go ahead and be part of this in one way or another, so yeah. Even if you make a donation of clothing, I mean, how many times do you pass clothing to Salvation Army or someplace, Goodwill or whatever? Do it with other women, and be purposeful in how you do it. I think that what you've got going on there is a really, really good thing. So
yeah, and we have this thing called, so this is a thing that the Lord gave me this year. He said, build small to grow great. And, I don't know about you, but many of us have been to these big, huge conferences, and you kind of get lost in the crowd. And that's what intentionally having smaller groups of women together, really being their tribe. That's another thing. So an Esther table is one of those little downloadable things you can do. But with the whole closet swap event, we have this thing called the Closet Swap Boutique, where you do it in your home and you invite a few friends and you do the same concept. You just take a few things out of your closet, you swap, even if you're not the same size, you can swap jewelry, scarves, handbags, whatever. And it's so much fun just to have something that you're doing an activity, but now you're really having a conversation with one another. And that could be the launch of an Esther table. And when I say an Esther table, basically what it is women just like you walking through similar circumstances of life. And you get around, not for a nag session. Okay, that's not what it is.
No.
It's to love on one another so that you could be known, loved, and heard, and then have the tools to heal, have the tools to look and say, okay, let me pray for you. What does God's word say about this? Because the one thing I know, Teresa, this is a whole nother podcast, is that I got a touch from the Holy Spirit. I was having a major identity crisis nearing my 30s that had culminated all of my upbringing. And I'm just going to say that he's real. What years of counseling and all of that could not do for me, in 10 minutes with a touch of God, completely healed the inner part of my identity. So it's possible, and I can share that another time, but it's very intimate, very real. But I know that if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for peace, if you're looking for, I feel like I'm just torn up inside, I don't know who I am, you can get that. You call out to God and you cry out with your heart. He's going to hear you and he is going to touch you. So I just want to leave that there too.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Now, you did tell me before we started our conversation that you have gifts to give to the listeners. I love presents, don't you?
Yes. So you are actually getting my boot camp blueprint. If it's called Stop Dreaming, Start Doing. Okay. So this is because we can dream and 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 have notebooks full of dreams, but we someday need to actually take that step of action, right? So this is your step-by-step guide to making that happen. And all the different ways you can connect with me as well from, if you want to go deeper. And then because of such a time as this, I was actually finishing a different writing project this summer and God said, nope, you're going to do this. So I've written, it's called the Esther Calling Prayer and Fasting Guide. If you've never done it, it's, how one woman can change the heart of a nation. One prayer, we're one thing away from something changing for the positive. So we want to be plugged into that. So this is really takes, again, I am very practical. I'm the how-to coach of mission building. It takes you step by step in why should I fast and what does it really mean and who is Esther and what is the meaning behind and how is she relevant for today? So it goes into depth and it also gives you the background of our declaration from 2020. So you get that whole download, you get what that looks like and how you can be more involved in movements like this.
And we'll have, when this show is up on YouTube, we will have all that information in the description for you to be able to go and get these beautiful gifts from Linette. People want to get in touch with you. They want to learn more about you and what you do in terms of coaching and how they can be part of your quote unquote tribe, your mission. Where can they get in touch with you, Linette? What's the best way?
The best way is to email me. So, and I'm going to give you my real email that I am the one who have eyes on this. So it's Linette with an I, LINETTE at daughtersunited.org. And I'm putting it out there in faith. Don't spam me, you guys, but I love real stories. So if you're like, oh my goodness, this girl read my mail, I need to speak with her, I need her help. Those are the people, I'm not going to work harder than you are, right? But if you're hungry, if you want to do it, if you are like, I need a plan, I'm your girl. I will help you get to the finish line. I will help you draft your blueprint and take steps in that territory that you have been called to take.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on Conversations That Make a Difference. I love what you're doing. I love you. I think that this has been an amazing hour that we have spent together. Do you believe it's an hour already? It's already gone. And that a lot of women listening to this may step up to step out of certain circumstances and situations and really put their feet, boots to the ground, so to speak. They put their feet one foot in front of another to walk closer to people who are, the women that are around them and the women who need them. So on that note, I want to just say thank you again for joining us. And the next time we come back to Conversations That Make a Difference will be, oh my goodness, I don't even know what the date, but first and third Tuesday, live events. So join us the next time. And may every conversation that you're having with someone you love or someone who needs you, may that conversation make a difference to each of you. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our station owner, Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.